13, and then we'll pick up and get into our lesson today. What the story, I guess, what we are studying is Joseph has just made himself known to the brothers. And so that's a big step. They have made 2 trips back and forth to Egypt. He has tested them on both trips to see how they were going to act. And the last time, of course, you remember, he put his silver cup in Benjamin's bag, and I guess he wanted to test and see how they were going to treat Benjamin. If they treated Benjamin like they had treated him, it probably would be a different story, but that isn't how it came out. And God had taken Joseph and put him where he was, and he recognized that for that specific purpose. And so now, in the first part of chapter 45, Joseph reveals himself to the boys. "I'm Joseph," he says. Well, that had to shock them because they believed that he was either dead or they didn't know what had happened to him. It's been 22 years since they have seen or heard about Joseph. And Joseph, in their mind, he was dead. And certainly in his father's mind, he was dead. But Joseph said, "I'm Joseph," and then he says, "I'm the one you sold into slavery." So now the guys are like, "Uh-oh, he's found us out." Yeah, no, there's trouble in paradise here. So, and Joseph revealed himself, and he spent some time talking to them about that. And then at verse number 13, it says, "And ye shall tell my father of all of my glory in Egypt, and of all ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither." So the purpose now is to get his father and his brethren and all the families out of Canaan and bring them to Egypt. And the reason was there's going to be 5 more years of drought. And that 5 years of drought would have devastated the family. They would have scattered, and had they even survived it, because there were a lot of people that did not survive it. Baby, you didn't bring any water, did you? Well, maybe I have one. Yeah, I've got one right here. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. So Joseph has now revealed himself. He says he's telling him, "Go get back to your father. Tell him what you've seen. Explain to him all of this situation." And verse number 14 says, "And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck." I want you to get the picture. 22 years ago, Benjamin was an 8 or 9-year-old boy. Benjamin's mother, Rachel, is the same mother as Joseph. Both Benjamin and Joseph were from Rachel. Both Benjamin and Joseph were much loved by their father. And because of Benjamin's birth, Rachel died. And that even brought Jacob closer to the 2 boys, Joseph and Benjamin. And now these 2 boys are brothers. And it's unique. The family of Jacob is unique. There's 12. Let me get rid of this here for just a minute. There's 12 in the family. 6 were born to Leah. 2 were born to Bilhah, the handmaids, and 2 were born to Zilpah. And when you get to Rachel, she had 2. But Jacob's love was Rachel. That's where he spent all of his time. That's where he spent his life. And so now we find that Benjamin and Joseph are meeting again after 22 years of being apart. Benjamin, just an 8-year-old boy when he left. And at that time, Joseph was 17. And so there was a friendship and fellowship that they would have had that would have been unique. Benjamin would have looked up to his bigger brother. And Joseph would have taken care of Benjamin, would have taken him out to see the sheep, and would have taken him out to see what's going on and how the land was and everything. And so that would have been they were a close-knit family until Joseph was taken away from them. Well, now they've met each other. Joseph introduced himself again. And actually the verses previous to this, he says, Benjamin's eyes have seen me. He will know me. And you know, understand, 22 years, and in your mind, he's dead, right? He don't exist anymore. And so now you're actually seeing a dead man. This guy, he's alive. And I don't know if he had a beard, what all it was. I'm sure he had facial hair, and his whole persona was different. Plus, he was dressed in regal garments. He looked like Pharaoh. I mean, he was dressed. Actually, he had Pharaoh's ring. So when these boys, just these shepherds, these farmers, came to Egypt and saw him, they had no concept of him ever being Joseph. And even when he said, I am Joseph, that didn't mean anything. They didn't recognize him as such. But now they are beginning to understand this is Joseph. Verse number 15, moreover, he kissed his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him. So understand now, here's where he is now gone by, and you just take Reuben and Simeon and Levi and Judah and just on down the line to Joseph or to Benjamin, and he was going down and hugging and kissing, and you know what I'm talking about, the brotherly kiss, the brotherly hug, the brotherly love. He was sharing to each one of those brothers. And they were all weeping at that time. I don't know what was going through the minds of the brothers. Yeah, they were scared to a point. They were confused. Folks, there's a lot of, there had to be a lot of confusion. And I don't know how long they spent talking to one another. But it says after that, the brethren talked with him. So there was a time of fellowship after that. And now in our chapter today, in verses number 16 through 24, we're going to see where Joseph reveals his identity to Pharaoh. So we have three sections in this verse, chapter 45. One is Joseph revealing himself to his brothers. Two, Joseph revealing himself to Pharaoh, just who he was. And then three, the brothers revealing Joseph to Jacob. And so it was a revelation chapter in the Bible. I don't know how much Pharaoh knew of Joseph's life. One thing we do know, that Pharaoh knew that Joseph was a slave. Pharaoh would have known that Joseph spent 10 years with Potiphar and had been elevated in the household of Potiphar to where he literally run the household of Potiphar. And then we know that he was spent 3 years in jail. He would have known that. He would have known that because that's where he received him as he did read his revealed the dream that Pharaoh had. And so we know that he knew about that 20 years, that 13 years. And then now he's had Joseph as a leader, really, of Israel, of Egypt, for 9 years. And so he's looked at him totally different. But now we find out that he's heard about Joseph's family being in town. And not only did he heard about it because people were running around saying, hey, something's happening over there. Who are these boys? Joseph went away crying a couple times, and now he's been introducing himself to the family. So they're finding out all of these things. This has to be confusing. Well, now Joseph goes to Pharaoh, and he says him, and the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house. So it wasn't Joseph necessarily going. the fame of what was happening, the word was getting out that Joseph's family was in town. And Joseph's brethren are come, and it pleased Pharaoh well and his servants. Joseph was loved. Let me just rephrase that. Joseph was highly respected in Egypt. He was elevated from nothing, from a prisoner to Lord of the land because he interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh. And those dreams came true. We're 9 years into the reality of those dreams as all of they are progressing. But Joseph's character is important. God blessed Joseph, and Joseph's God was known among the people of Egypt. And Joseph, when he was sold into slavery, had a choice to make in his life, just like you and I have choices to make in our life, right? When we have something happen in our life, we can make a choice that oh, poor, pitiful me. We can go into that deal and into that part of our life and wrap ourselves up within ourselves and go into a corner or a closet and poor, poor, pitiful me. Or we can trust God and say, God, you put me here. You put me in this situation. Please help me to get through it and get out of it. And through all of this, may I give you honor and glory. And Joseph being sold as a slave, understand, folks, this is a 17-year-old boy thrown in a pit. His clothes were removed. He's sold into slavery all in one day. And he's on his road to Egypt not having a clue what's going to happen in his life. But God puts him in the way of Potiphar, and this man was the leader of the army. And so they put him in a situation where God blessed him. But God blessed him because he trusted God. And he decided that my situation is bad, but I'm going to do the best I can in a bad situation. I'm going to honor God first. And by doing that, in 10 years, he was elevated to the head of the house. Matter of fact, the Bible says that Pharaoh didn't know anything about, Pharaoh didn't even know how much money he had. Joseph knew it. And until, of course, he met this Pharaoh's wife, everything was great. But then he's thrown in prison. Oh, poor, pitiful me. I just lay here and wallow in my sorrows. Oh, well, how terrible this situation. No. He immediately went about doing good. He immediately went about, with his faith, revealing himself to others that I am a child of God. And God is my God, and I'm going to serve Him no matter what. And so as he did that, he was elevated again, even in prison, to where he was in charge of prisoners. I mean, they'd unchain him in the morning and he could go and help the others. And so then when it came time for God to place him where God had put him there to be, he went before Pharaoh. He was elevated. He gave Pharaoh the interpretation of his dreams. And God had accomplished what He wanted to accomplish with Joseph. And now we're seeing the fulfillment of all of that after 9 years of this drought and of the 7 years of good and the 2 years of drought. What God had wanted is to get the family out of Canaan, bring them into Egypt, and develop a nation of Israel within Egypt. When they leave Egypt, they will be 2 million to 4 million strong. In Canaan, they're beginning to marry Canaanites and Hittites and all the other ites. and they were getting to blend their families with the people of the land. When God moved them into Egypt, He put them in an area by themselves, and they developed and grew the family within themselves, till when God moved them out of Egypt 230 years later, They were a mighty army of people. And so when they went back into Canaan, the land that God gave them, they were Israel. And so now we find that the fame went to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto thy brethren, Do ye lade your beasts, and go, get ye unto the land of Canaan, and take your father and your household, and come to me, and I will give you the good of the land, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. This is Pharaoh. Pharaoh has learned, and because of the respect that he has for Joseph, and he shares that respect to Joseph's family. Now, why would he have that respect for Joseph? Because Joseph lived a life pleasing to God. And by living a life pleasing to God, he was pleasing to his master and to the other people around him. And his servants liked him, and Pharaoh liked him. He could run a business properly and be respected. You know, that's hard to do if you have to fire somebody. You know, you can't have a business where everybody's perfect. Only my business. You can't have it. You can't have it. And as the Bible talks about men dealing with their wives, dealing with them according to knowledge, that relates unto all aspects of our life. When we deal with others, if we're dealing with others in the light of God, and God's dealing with us, then we'll be respectful to others. But we'll also understand this person I have to be a little more firm with. This person I have to handle a little more delicately with. These people you have to deal with each one individually. Nothing worse to me than having somebody else go fire somebody. I handle it myself. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But if you're with a Christian and godly attitude, you should be able to do it. They're not going to be happy. Nothing to do about that. But anyways, Pharaoh loved and respected Joseph. And when Joseph had told his family this is what's going to happen, Pharaoh went ahead and put his stamp of approval on what Joseph had said. And Pharaoh said to them, he says, Take your father and your households and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land. That's the best of the land. The best of the land. And thou art commanded. Now there's a good word you could circle. It's the word commanded. In other words, this is the leader of the basically the leader of the known world at this time. He is Egypt. He is the Pharaoh of Egypt. And so he is saying, it's my command that you take wagons of the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. So he's going to give them wagons. And then it says, and regard not your stuff, for the good of the land of Egypt is yours. I read that this week on Monday. I was reading that, and that's when I write my weekly letter that I send out. And those words kind of hit me. Here's what's happening. Joseph is now told by Pharaoh to go get and Joseph's not going to leave. He'll be taking others. Others will go. The brothers will go. And he said, come back, when you come back. And what he's saying to them, he says, I'm giving you everything you're going to need. When you come back, take no thought about your stuff. Any of y'all have any stuff? I go into my garage and I see stuff. My sweet wife was cleaning out her garage, and I bless her heart, I was fun to watch. And I asked her, I said, when you're finished with that, if you would help me with my garage, that would be helpful, And she just gave me that look. There's times when you just get the look. It's enough. But he said here, regard not your stuff. And I was thinking all of the stuff that I had, and I listed things like tools, cars, trucks, tractor, equipment, books, clothes, jewelry, etc., 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 etc. All of that stuff. He said, you don't worry about your stuff. And I was thinking, when I leave, when my time stamp is taken care of, and I leave all my stuff. I try to make who's going to get this and who's going to get that, and then in reality, I don't care. I won't be here. But the thing is, we don't want to, he says, regard not your stuff. You're not taking it with you. And I wrote a few things. I have a beautiful home. I love my home. My wife makes it so homey. It's just, I feel comfortable in my home. I can't take that with me. But Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And in my Father's house are many. The word mansions, we misread that. We think that all of us are going to get a mansion. Well, believe me, just being in heaven is plenty. A pup tent outside just put me a pup tent on the gold streets. I don't care. It's like we worry sometimes. I was talking to my wife this morning. I said, we worry sometimes about how old am I going to be, or what's it, this and that. You know how old I'm going to be? I'm going to be eternal. Eternal. You don't understand that. Day one never ends in heaven. I'll be eternal. You see, Isaiah says God dwells in eternity. And we've been promised a home in eternity. An eternal life we've been given. It doesn't matter. So regard not your... You know what? Another thing I said, I am not taking my medicine with me to heaven. I'm leaving it behind. Well, I have a lot of older folks in here. Does your medicine cabinet look like mine? I remember one time I went to my father's house and I looked up and I said, Dad, you don't take all of it. No, I used to take this. So I just started raking it off and threw a bunch of it away, because he didn't need it, But we have all of this medicine. We're not taking it because we will have a changed body. Our body, this corruptible, you know why we're going to have so much joy when we get in heaven? When we enter the portals of heaven, it will be a blissful joy that is unspeakable and full of glory. The thought of my mother looking down from heaven and watching and seeing me, that concept, I can't, that just doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. She would be so disappointed if she watched my life. I'm not perfect. Oh, but she'll be up. The bliss and glories of heaven. What happens is this body, you leave this body. This body will never be seen again. It'll be gray in a grave. It'll deteriorate, and God will one day give me a new body. But when I leave this earth and get rid of this corrupt body, it will give me the privilege, the joy of just an eternal bliss. Oh, Jeff Jones, we just had the funeral. That flesh, that's just corruptible things. We look at it and you just shut it up and put it away. The soul of Jeff is already enjoying the glories of heaven. He's at the foot of some people. I want to be here and I want to go see this person. Listen, the first 1,000,000 years we'll be at the foot of Jesus, and maybe many, many more million years, eternally. I want to see my Lord. My mom and dad and all, I will get together someday. But my joy is in Him who loved me and saved me and give me that. So forget your stuff. I'm not going to need a flashlight or a calendar in heaven. Jesus, the Lamb, is the light. Calendar, it's what day, what day is it? Day 1. How old will my mother be when I get to heaven? I don't know, day 1. I don't know how old. I don't know. We'll be eternal. We'll all be the same. I don't think there'll be babies and this and that. I think we'll all be the same. We won't have to look in a mirror to make sure our hair is in place. But you know what He does say? He just said, and the children of Israel did so. He says, bring your children. And I thought about that. That's our job now. That's our job now. You say, well, you can't bring your children to heaven. Yes, you can. You can do your part to get them to a knowledge of God, to where the Spirit of God can work in their heart and they can trust Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, just like you did. They will not go at the same time as you, but you can get your family in heaven. They can be with you in heaven. But that's your responsibility. That's your job. Now, God will do it, but you must get the Word in front of them. And that's our job. When I leave this earth, I leave one thing. That's my legacy, my testimony. That's all I leave behind. Oh, I mean all the other junk, but that's worthless. So, regard not your stuff. I like that. And the children of Israel did so, and verse number 21. The children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandments of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions along the way. And then it says to all of them he gave each man changes of raiment. Now most believe that's 2 because it's plural. 2 changes of raiment each. Now these are shepherds. But when I'm at the ranch, this is not how I look. I have changes of raiment. I don't care what my shirt and pants match. I don't care when I'm at the ranch. These men have come to town as shepherds. When they come back, He's given them raiment to wear that will match what they are going to be, where they're going to be in Egypt, so they fit. You understand? Oh, I could go into a long... They won't have their... Oh, never mind. I'll stay away from what I want to say. I mean, you can get into a list of things that people look like today. And to his father he sent after this manner 10 asses laden with good things of Egypt. Now these are donkeys, jakes they call them, of Egypt. And 10 she-asses, which are jennies, girls, laden with corn and bread and meat for the father of the way. Now, these will soon be 30. They will grow. And this is really, to be honest with you, donkeys at this time were special. They endure things that other animals would not endure. Time without water, they could carry a heavy load. So it was not a negative, but a very big positive. And so they got all of that. Now what he's saying is this was what Jacob received. So the way this is talking about here is Jacob would have received the changes of raiment as well. Oh, as a matter of fact, if we go back to verse 22, Benjamin received 300 pieces of silver. Silver today, I looked up this morning, is $76 an ounce. Wasn't that long ago, it was 20. Wasn't that long ago, it was 11. $76 an ounce. 300 times 76 is somewhere around $23,000 today. Give you just an idea, if it was ounces, of what he would have been given to his father or to Benjamin, and 5 changes of raiment. Does that express how he felt about his brother? His biological brother, his brother of the same mother? And then, of course, the father, he received all these other things that he had given him. And then we find, so he sent his brethren away, and they departed, and he said unto them, now these words are something unusual too. See that you fall not out by the way. He understood his brothers. You know, with children, my brother and I are 7 years apart. And I hope he don't see this today. Well, I know you see it, but we had some arguments. Your children probably never did, but my brother and I, well, my 2 sons, one of them just had to pester the other until the other knocked him into a wall. You know, just the way they work. I don't know why. But what he's saying to his brothers, see that you fall not out by the way. Already, Reuben had mentioned in chapter 42, and it said, Reuben answered him, saying, Speak I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against this child, and that ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. In other words, the first trip that they made to Egypt, and they met Joseph, which they didn't know it was Joseph, and they began to be, you guys are thieves, you guys are spies in the land. And it was give him a lot of hard time. And Reuben turns to his guys and said, this is because what we did to our brother. And so Reuben is already arguing with him. You guys did it. My idea was when the men said, let's kill our brother, Reuben was the oldest of the family. Why didn't he say, no, we're not going to do that. We're taking our brother back to Dad. I will take him back to Dad. But rather, he succumbed to the others, and then he, not knowing and not caring what happened to Joseph, he went off somewhere else while they took care of Joseph. And then Judah, he has nothing to say. He's the one that said, well, let's sell him to be a slave rather than kill him. So, and they went out of Egypt and came unto the land of Canaan unto their father. So here we have the men are coming back. And what Joseph is saying to them, see not that you fall out by the way. Don't get to arguing about this. It's okay. I've forgiven you. You repented, I forgive you. Isn't that wonderful about God, how we repent, He forgives, and we can go on with our life. And the revealing, and they went out of Egypt and they came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father. Now read this next verse, verse 26. And he told them, saying, here they come. Here they come, this caravan of wagons and people coming back. They left with just 12 or 10, 11. They left with 11 people and with some wagons to bring back the stores. Well, now they're coming back with extra wagons and mules and all kinds of stuff. And they're coming into town, and the first place they go is to Jacob, and the first words out of their mouth that we see is, Joseph is alive. For 22 years, he has been dead to them and dead to Jacob. And so Jacob is the first words he hears, Joseph is alive. And he is governor of all the land of Egypt, and Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And so now we have a situation here where Joseph, they're coming in. He's excited to see Benjamin, but he's told that Joseph is alive. Well, he don't believe that. Why wouldn't he believe that? 22 years earlier, some servants came with the coat of many colors that Joseph had worn. That coat of many colors was drenched in blood. And he said some animal must have tore him apart. For 22 years, he's mourned the death of Joseph. There's no way that the man that wore that coat could be alive. There's no way that the man that wore that coat could be alive. And so here we find him saying that Joseph is alive, and Jacob's heart fainted because he believed them not. And then they told him the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons, this is what it says, when he saw the wagons, he sent to carry him, that were sent to carry him. When he saw the wagons, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. When it says that Jacob's heart fainted, the word fainted there means it turned cold. His heart turned cold. Now his heart is warmed and revived as he sees the wagons, and he begins to, and all of this begins to come into being. Why are all these wagons? Why are these extra donkeys coming? Why is all of this? Is it right what they said about Joseph? Is what he said, is this right? And so he begins to believe the story. And Israel said, it's enough. It's enough. My son Joseph, my son is yet alive. This is a picture that I find very difficult to put in my mind. For 22 years, to know that your son is dead, and now to be told he is alive. And then to believe that, to be told is one thing, but to believe it is quite another. And Joseph, my son, is alive. I will go and see him before he dies. Well, we got through the chapter. Next week we'll be into chapter 46 as Jacob begins to take the family back to Egypt. And we'll be going through that next week. Father, thank you for the wonderful day you've given us. God, I pray you'll bless these wonderful people, bless our class, and bless our pastor as he brings the morning message. Empower him in a very special way. Use us, Lord, to bring honor to you today. In Jesus' precious name.